So you've been diagnosed with high blood pressure. What's next? I'm Dr. James Marcum, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through the basics of high blood pressure and the process I use to lead my patients to lowering and understanding their blood pressure. Thanks for joining me today. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to this channel and give this video a big thumbs up if you like our content. That's the best way you can help us spread the message that God desires healing in our lives. What can you do to lower your blood pressure? First, I'd like to turn you to a biblical prescription, and that's James 1 verses 5. One of the texts I use frequently when I have to talk to patients or when I have problems. James 1:5, if any of you, that includes me and you, lacks wisdom, and I think we all fall into that category, let him ask of God, who gives to all, just not some people, he gives it to everyone liberally. God gives us wisdom liberally when we ask, and without reproach, and it will be given to him. So whenever we have a medical problem, whether it be blood pressure or whatever, the first place I want to turn to is ask God to help us. God will help us understand the condition, what to do with lifestyle, when to use modern medicine, and also what might be causing it. Blood pressure is a tremendously busy and well-researched topic. It's been happening for people for quite a few years. Today, I just want to cover the basics and give you some natural ways to lower your blood pressure if it's truly high. Down the road, we can get into some more specifics. The first thing I like to do with my patients is ask them, do you actually have high blood pressure? Many patients will go to the doctor's office and get scared or nervous. I know I do. And my blood pressure is high just because of the situation. Anxiety can cause it. Pain can cause it. Many things can transiently cause it to rise. So the first thing we want to do is make sure someone really has a high blood pressure. So we take one of these cuffs. This is called a sphygmomanometer. And this hasn't been around for ages. We've only had this the last few years. In the 1700s, they didn't have these. But this goes around the upper arm, and you can listen to it either manually or with a device that will do it from the drugstore. And this measures your blood pressure. We want to do that when you're nice and relaxed, after 5 minutes at least of deep breathing with no stimulants in the body. You wouldn't want to take a bunch of caffeine and then check your blood pressure. You wouldn't want to have a lot of pain or stub your toe and check your blood pressure, or it might be artificially high. So you want to do that when you're nice and relaxed. Take several readings, see what it runs. If it's consistently above 130 on the top, that's a systolic blood pressure, or consistently above 80 on the bottom, you might be getting into high blood pressure. Well, when a patient comes in and they have high blood pressure, that's the first thing I do. Get several readings, make sure we know what it is. The next thing I like to do, I don't like to jump to a medication because there's many ways to lower blood pressure, but I want to understand why the blood pressure might be high. Is it eating the wrong foods? Is it stress? Is it pain? Is it an underlying medical problem like sleep apnea or thyroid or kidney disease? Then once we get that worked on, we want to try to lower the blood pressure. If the blood pressure hasn't damaged an organ, and that's the reason to treat it, if it's high every day, every night, all that pressure going through your pipes, over time, you're at a higher risk of having stroke, damage to the heart, damage to the blood vessels in the eyes, damage to your kidneys. So that's the reason to lower it. In fact, if we can lower our blood pressure, we can lower the risk of developing these problems like aneurysms, heart disease, strokes tremendously. And today it's been estimated that 1 in every 3 people, that's a lot, have high blood pressure. So I think it's very important that you know the basics about this and how to handle it. And we just don't necessarily want to jump to medications. We want to ask God for wisdom, make sure we have high blood pressure, see if we can find out if there's a cause and treat the cause first. Well, if a person has high blood pressure, and let's say we can't find out the cause, it's consistently elevated. Every time they come in, it's 160 over 100. Well, I will first, if they haven't had any end organ damage, and we can check that out by some physical exams, some basic studies on the heart, some EKGs, some blood work. We can see if the organs have been damaged. Hopefully they haven't, because this will tell me how fast I have to bring the blood pressure down. If you've had end organ damage, we're going to have to bring it down fast while we also work on the cause of high blood pressure if that can be discovered. Well, the next step, let's say they don't have any end organ damage. Well, the next step I do is I try to give some lifestyle changes. And I've made a list that I want to share with you of things that if you have high blood pressure, these are some natural things you can do to lower the blood pressure. And you're going to find out a lot of these deal with the cause. One of the things you can do is exercise. Studies have shown if you exercise for 3 months, that can lower the top number, the systolic, by 9 points. Lowering your sodium, that can lower it by as much as 16 points. Remember, a person needs only about 500 of sodium a day, that's milligrams, and the average person takes in 3,500, 7 times more than they need. And just some people, that sodium raises the blood pressure. The body tries to push all that extra sodium out by raising the blood pressure. That is one of the most common causes of high blood pressure. Before we had all these processed foods, we didn't have nearly as much of the blood pressure problem as we do today. Weight loss in itself can lower blood pressure by as much as 7 points on the systolic. Now, we know that nutrition is important in raising blood pressure because of this next natural remedy. Just by going to a plant-based diet, you can lower your blood pressure by as much as 18 points systolic. That's quite a bit. So it must be something in the food, whether it be the sodium or the extra chemicals, that raise our blood pressure as well. Some people try fasting with blood pressure, and that also adds benefits to it. Years ago, there was a doctor in the 60s, before we had any medicines at all, that would just treat it with a very simple rice and vegetable diet. And he lowered blood pressure tremendously by doing this. What are other things that you can do naturally? Lowering your meat intake can lower your blood pressure. Of course, blood pressure medications. Well, that's a whole different topic, but that can lower it as much as 15 points. And sometimes we need modern medicine, especially if the lifestyle changes don't work or we have an end organ damage and we want to bring down the blood pressure until we can treat it naturally. And some people, no matter how much they do, they can't seem to make the lifestyle changes. And that's why I'm glad we have a Savior and His grace makes up for our weaknesses. What else can do it? Well, lowering alcohol can lower it by 5 points. Fruits and veggies, if you have 5 fruits and vegetables a day, that can lower it by as much as 7 points. Foods like flax, green foods make the arteries bigger. Hibiscus tea, all of those in studies have been shown to lower blood pressure. Just relaxing and taking some deep breaths, 5 minutes 3 times a day, that turns down adrenaline, some of the stress in life, and that lowers your blood pressure. Having a pet or purpose, that can lower the blood pressure by making a chemical called endorphin, which relaxes you. And finally, studies have shown that worship, turning to God, having a higher meaning can also help lower some of the stress and bring down blood pressure. So that's why the cause is so much important in treating blood pressure. First, you want to see if you have it. Then you want to work on some of the most common things like nutrition, exercise, relaxing, removing stress in life. If that doesn't help, you want to see if you have any medical conditions. Sleep apnea, kidney disease, thyroid are very common. Then if none of this works and you have genetic high blood pressure, you have end organ damage, the cause can't be addressed, then you might need some medicines to lower the risk of long-standing blood pressure problems. Because blood pressure long-term is an issue. It can cause problems. 1 in 3 people succumb to blood pressure-related problems. So this is a very important topic. Now, there's much more to be said about this. I just wanted to give you overview. But I want you to remember that text that we started with today. Don't forget that text, James 1 verses 5. If any of you lack wisdom regarding your blood pressure, start by asking God. He's going to give you the answers both in what you need to do, who you need to go to, what lifestyle changes and the appropriate use of medications and other interventions. So I want to thank you, and I hope this content has helped you experience success in your efforts to understand and lower your blood pressure. And remember that the God who created you wants to heal you. So invite him into your life and get ready to witness the results firsthand. Please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, and we'll chat again soon about more biblical prescriptions for life.